My child's breathing was getting faster, but my mother-in-law only cared about her dinner party. When I refused to do what she said, one single moment ended my entire relationship forever. My child's breathing was getting faster, but my mother-in-law only cared about her dinner party, and when I refused to obey her, she snatched the nebulizer from my hand and said, "Stop the drama, Evelyn, the guests are waiting downstairs." My name is Evelyn Breyer, I am 41 years old, and I am a pediatric respiratory therapist in the Nob Hill neighborhood of Portland, Oregon. That evening at 6:38, my 5-year-old son Noah was sitting on the carpet in his room, his chest moving up and down, the corners of his lips turning blue, and his small hands holding my wrist like a drowning child holds a piece of wood. The sound of silverware was coming from downstairs. The smell of roast chicken and rosemary filled the house. My mother-in-law Priscilla Grainer stood in the doorway, looked at the clock and said, "If you ruin my annual dinner tonight, remember, your place in this family is already weak." My husband Colton was standing silently. Just silent. Before I tell you further, stop for a moment and like and subscribe, but only if this story is really touching your heart. Tell me in the comments where you are listening from and what time it is there. I read every comment. Now take me back 7 years, to that morning when I first entered Priscilla's house not as a daughter-in-law, but as a test. Colton and I got married in 2019. He was an insurance broker, always in a clean shirt with a soft voice, and this one sentence for every difficult thing: "Don't upset Mom, she's just like that." Priscilla was not just like that. She chose where to cut. 3 weeks after the wedding, she invited me to her Sunday brunch. There were 14 people. A white tablecloth, lemon tea, and family pictures on the wall. In every picture there was Colton, his sister Merritt, and Priscilla. Not a single picture of me. When I lightly said, "Our wedding picture would look nice here," Priscilla smiled and said, "Let's first see how long this marriage lasts." Not everyone laughed, but everyone heard it. A piece of toast was stuck in my throat. Then Noah was born. In February 2021. I went through 19 hours of labor. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic, machines were beeping, and my hair was stuck to my neck with sweat. Priscilla came in, looked at Noah, then said, "Colton was prettier as a child." I fixed the blanket with a weak hand. Colton said, "Mom, please." She turned and said, "I tell the truth. Learn to tolerate the truth in this house." Noah started having breathing trouble from the age of 18 months. His asthma was seasonal, but sometimes it became very severe. At work I gave children the same treatment. I knew when wheezing was dangerous, when ribs pulled in, when to call 911. To Priscilla, all of this felt like new mother's drama. On Thanksgiving in 2023, Noah started coughing. I took him to the room and gave him the inhaler. Downstairs, 22 guests were sitting. Priscilla came after me with the mixed smell of perfume and gravy. She said, "Every time, you use the child as an excuse to grab everyone's attention." I said, "He can't breathe." She came closer and said softly, "You work in a children's hospital, you are not a queen. Every cough is not an emergency." That line struck inside me like a nail. Colton later said, "You shouldn't have talked to Mom in that tone." I looked at his face for 7 minutes. Just kept looking. I thought maybe he was joking. But no. I kept running the house. Noah's appointments, Colton's bills, Priscilla's birthday dinners, everything. In 2024, Priscilla asked me to pay the flowers bill for her charity luncheon, just for now. The amount was $2,860. She had said she would return it in 10 days. She never did. When I mentioned it 6 months later, she was sitting in her sunroom. Rain lines were coming down the window. She placed the teacup down and said, "People like you keep accounts of relationships. That is why you cannot become family." I stayed silent. Like always. Then one day I met Mavis Dunlap. She was a 76-year-old retired nurse who volunteered at our hospital. Silver hair, a soft cardigan, and peppermint candies in her purse. She liked Noah because he gave her a dinosaur sticker every time. On January 14, 2026, she stopped me in the break room. The time was 9:22 in the morning. The coffee was burnt and someone had spilled soup in the microwave. Mavis said, "Evelyn, you have been asking someone's permission for too long. A mother does not ask permission when her child cannot breathe." I tried to laugh. "You don't know what happens at home." She took a folded paper out of her bag. It was the hospital asthma action plan with the doctor's signature, Noah's oxygen threshold, emergency steps, and clear instruction: severe breathing difficulty, immediate emergency care. Mavis said, make 3 copies of this. One on the fridge, one in your purse, one email to your husband. And whoever stops you, write down their name. Write down the time. Write down the words that I held the paper. My fingers turned cold. Could I really write all this down? Was I making evidence against my mother-in-law? Or was I just trying to save my child? That night I sat on the kitchen floor. The tiles were cold. Noah was sleeping upstairs. I emailed the action plan to Colton, writing in the subject line, Noah Emergency Breathing Plan. The time was 11:46 p.m. He replied, looks intense. Please don't use this to start drama with mom. I put the phone down. Something behind my chest went quiet. Over the next 29 days I gathered everything. Doctor's notes, inhaler refills, 3-year visits, Priscilla's texts, Colton's replies. In one text Priscilla had written, Noah needs discipline, not medicine. In another, Evelyn enjoys making everyone panic. On the outside I stayed the same. Made dinner, smiled, packed Noah's backpack. Inside I was saving every word. Stop for a moment. Before moving ahead, tell me, has it ever happened to you that your own family made you feel small in front of everyone? Write it in the comments. And if you want to know what happened the next morning when Priscilla saw the doctor's signed paper in front of her own guests, then stay with me. Press the like button so I know you are still with me. On Valentine's Day night, it was Priscilla's annual sweetheart dinner. 31 guests, a 4-course meal, 18 crystal glasses, and a pianist playing old love songs in the corner of the living room. The house smelled of vanilla candles, but upstairs in Noah's room, the smell of medicine and a plastic mask had spread. Noah had been coughing since the day. At 6:12 in the evening his wheeze changed. I put on the pulse oximeter. 91, then 89. I told Colton, we are going to the ER. Now. Priscilla appeared in the doorway. Absolutely not. Dinner will be served at 7. People are here. I put Noah's coat on him. His breathing was coming like a whistle. Priscilla picked up the nebulizer tube and threw it on the table. Stop it. A child is coughing, and you are going to ruin my 40-year reputation. Colton said softly, Evelyn, maybe wait 20 minutes. I looked at him. That was the moment. The last thread of the marriage broke right there. I dialed 911. My voice was shaking but the words were clear. 5-year-old male, severe asthma distress, oxygen 89, retractions visible, address 2147 Northwest Irving Street. Downstairs the music stopped. Paramedics arrived in 8 minutes. Their boots were making heavy sounds on the wooden floor. One guest, who was Priscilla's church friend, stood with her hand over her mouth. Noah's small body was on the stretcher, his eyes on me. Priscilla said to the paramedic, this is being exaggerated. The paramedic looked at me. Who is the mother? I said, I am. Priscilla tried to speak again but Mavis Dunlap was standing at the door. I had not called her. She had come to the same neighborhood to visit her sister and came over after hearing the noise. In her hand was the same peppermint purse. Mavis said loudly, I am a retired pediatric nurse. Look at the child's ribs. This is not exaggeration. There was the sound of coughing in the room. Then silence. Then whispers. I took the folder out of my purse. My hands were shaking, the edges of the papers pressing into my fingers. I looked at Colton. I emailed you this plan at 11:46 p.m. You had read it. Then I read Priscilla's text. Noah needs discipline, not medicine. Priscilla's face became hard, like a mask freezes before breaking. Mavis placed the doctor's signed action plan on the table. This is the child's physician's order. Delay in severe distress is dangerous. Whoever stopped him was wrong. Priscilla's own guests were no longer looking at her. They were looking at Noah. Then at Colton. Then at me. Colton said, Evelyn, this is a private matter. I said softly, no. You considered my child's breathing less important than your mother's dinner timing. This is no longer private. The paramedic said, ma'am, we need to go. I sat in the ambulance with Noah. The sound of the siren was going deep inside my chest. His finger was tangled in my finger. He spoke softly, Mommy, Grandma mad? I kissed his forehead. Don't worry about Grandma. You just breathe. At the hospital, Noah was given 2 breathing treatments, a steroid dose, and kept under observation for 6 hours. At 3:18 in the morning his oxygen became 97. For the first time I leaned my head back on the chair. The fluorescent light was stinging my eyes. The coffee tasted like cardboard, but I drank it all. At 8:40 in the morning, Colton came. Coffee in hand, guilt on his face, but his spine was still missing. "Mom is very upset," he said. I looked at him. I had 23 sentences for an answer, but I said only one. "Divorce papers will arrive next week." He sat down. As if his knees had given out. Later the consequences kept coming. Out of the 31 guests at Priscilla's dinner, 9 sent me messages. 3 wrote that they had also heard that text. 1 even sent a video in which Priscilla was calling it exaggerated to the paramedic. The family started creating distance. Merritt, Colton's sister, came to my house for the first time. Standing at the door, she said, "I was wrong to stay silent for so many years." There was soup in her hand, the lid was crooked, a little had spilled into the bag. That felt strangely real to me. A CPS report was not made because I had taken immediate care. But the hospital social worker kept the documentation. At the custody hearing in court, the judge asked Colton only one question. "Why did you hesitate when the child was in respiratory distress?" Colton did not answer. I got primary custody. Medical decision-making too. Colton was ordered to take supervised parenting classes. Priscilla was stopped from unsupervised visits with Noah until she completed a pediatric emergency safety course. She left me 4 voicemails. In one she was crying. In one she was saying I had broken the family. In the last one she only said, "You won." I did not delete them. I did not reply either. Noah and I shifted 3 months later into a small duplex near Selwood Moorland. 920 square feet. The kitchen was small, but a maple tree could be seen from the window. We made a raised garden bed in the back. Noah put 12 carrot seeds in the same hole. I did not fix it. Some things should be allowed to grow in their own way. Mavis came every Thursday. Noah gave her dinosaur stickers. She taught him breathing exercises like blowing out a candle but not letting the flame go out. She had become like an aunt to us, even though there was no blood relation. One night it was raining. The faucet was dripping at intervals of 3 seconds. Noah came to me in his dinosaur pajamas and said, "Mommy, this house breathes better." I took him in my arms. His weight was more than before, warm, alive, safe. Outside, small carrot leaves had come out of the soil. They were not weak. They only needed a place where no one would trample them. Thank you for staying until the end. I have to say this from my heart. If this story reached your heart, press the like button and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so you do not miss any story. Tell me in the comments, have you ever set boundaries with your family? What was your experience? I read every comment. And there is a link to another story in the description that I think you must listen to. Until the next story, take care of yourself. You deserve it.